Before we get started tonight here on another episode of Fast Break here on IESportsRadio.com, I want to talk to you about one of our sponsors, Legacy Financial. Last year was a tough year. However, staying positive and keeping your faith and continuing to work hard is the goal. If you're in a financial struggle at the moment and you need some help, or if you're doing well and you want to take your financial situation to the next level, either way, give them a call. Also, if you're looking for a new opportunity to work for yourself and earn more money part-time, give them a call also. Call AO at 510-928-2104 to book your appointment today. Andrew and Yayo are the two people on a mission to help families build a legacy. You can find them on social media at Legacy Uncut and also on Instagram at Sims Uncut as well. Also, another sponsor here at IE Sports Radio. Mom is always right. Are you feeling overwhelmed with school, work, those essays keep you up at night? Don't lose sleep. Just pick up the phone. Mom is always right. Writing agency will give you quality essays and will always make our deadlines. Sleep soundly knowing that we are on a job. For more information, call 626-653-3649, which I had that during college. Also, it goes down in the PM. Podcast on Mom is Always Right Media. Make sure you check out the new episode of It Goes Down to PM, brought to you by Mom is Always Right Media, where we help you open your business from start to finish. Lots to talk about tonight on the show. And I want to ask y'all this in the chat tonight. Who are y'all biggest influences in the past 30 years in basketball? I want y'all to think about that and stew on that. And we'll talk about this subject later on the show. But talk about that and much more here on Fast Break, here on iSports Radio. Your direct feed for that is all is sports. And thank you for tuning in. And join us as you shall, ladies and gentlemen. We got a loaded show here tonight. We had the SEC Big 12 Challenge went on yesterday with the SEC coming out on top. The NBA still rolling along. And like I said in the intro, asking y'all, who are y'all biggest influences in basketball for the past 30 years? ESPN put out a little post on Twitter the other day. And I don't know. We feel like some people are missing. So we'll discuss all that. But D-Lock, how you doing tonight, sir?
I'm doing pretty good, man. Very exciting week, of basketball, especially with the SEC. Big 12 Challenge. Florida did come up huge against West Virginia. A couple other games. But it was a very exciting weekend, especially with a few other basketball matchups as well. I think we did see a big matchup between the Lakers and the 76ers, a couple of days ago. So a lot of things going on, man. Getting into like the middle part of the season for both college and NBA.
Oh yeah, and before we go talk about the SEC Big 12 real quick, Lakers come out pretty big against the Celtics after kind of losing a couple games to like the lowly, Pistons, and you gotta, I don't know, I guess getting this win against Boston, rights the ship and stuff like that. So, big win for them in that regards. Damian Lillard on fire right now. Of course he is.
Oh yeah.
But he seemed like he's on fire right now. The Jazz had that winning streak cut today by the Denver Nuggets. And I think, Denver kind of struggled early this season, but I think that, things are come back to form from them. And, with this win over Utah, I think they'll be right back on things. But first, Mr. Locke, the SEC Big 12 Challenge happened yesterday. It kicked off with Alabama and Oklahoma. Alabama came in on a 10-game winning streak. Haven't lost yet in the month of January. So I was geeked up, happy, and stuff like that. And then the way Alabama came out, it was flat to a degree. And one thing about this Alabama team, if some of y'all don't, watch them as much, size becomes an issue with them. And, credit to Oklahoma, D-Lock. I tell my kids this when I coach them. If you don't box out a rebound, regardless, if you don't have the biggest height and all that stuff, it will come back to haunt you.
Yeah.
And with Oklahoma, lucky for them, they would get offensive rebounds over these guys and get these second chance opportunities to turn for shots for them. Harmon for Oklahoma had 18 points. Went 3 for 7 for 3-point land, but I feel like, he had more. Felt like one of those games. And, for Oklahoma, strong defensive team, and to kind of play great defense on one of the best offensive teams in the country, hey, kudos to him. I'll give my props to him.
Yeah, I mean, it did look like Alex Reese looked like he probably got off to a late start. That was 3 for 10 from 3-point land, so he got shots. But like you said, when you don't grab those boards, it comes back to haunt you. So he still finished with 15, 5 rebounds, 2 assists, but that percentage, that percentage of those shots is what played a huge part. So you got a couple guys that kind of was getting in rhythm, but like you said, it wasn't a start that a lot of Alabama fans are used to seeing. So, but again, I mean, looking at it, the fact that you finished with 34 boards compared to Oklahoma's 42. A lot of people may say, well, that's only 8 boards, but that's 8 opportunities to shoot the ball, and they lost by 5. So you got to realize that those boards count. And like you said, the size is really huge.
Yeah, and it didn't. Jaden Shackelford missing 2 layups, like 2 point blank layups that he should have went in. And I hate when players miss layups like that. I was like, come on, dog.
Yeah.
Like Shackelford can come out, jack a 30-foot jumper with somebody in his face and make it, but 2 layups, like the contested, you got to make those. And that's, in coaching, when I tell my kids, empty points on the board. Those points you got to have. Those points you should.
Yeah, I mean, you lose by 5. You would come back and look at that layup like, damn, like the first is like, well, really, you missed it. But then you look at the final score, it's like, well, damn, really, you missed this, right? So you're right about that.
So, credit to Oklahoma. They do get the win. I think, I just speak as an Alabama fan, I think this is a loss that you will probably need to kind of, okay, just look back what you need to do and stuff like that and kind of move forward. So, credit, like I said, credit Oklahoma, great win. And it was one of those losses that'd be good for a team down the line in terms of Alabama. And then, you go down, Texas A&M over K-State. K-State, Bruce Weber kind of, let that program go. And so much so, fans are really like calling for his head in a sense.
Yeah.
And A&M, I think a much needed win for them if they're going to try to make a push for the tournament. So, but let me ask you this. With Bruce Weber, for all the success that he has had, if K-State continue to go down this path under 500, do you see them still sticking around there in Manhattan?
I don't think so. I mean, I think at one point, we're talking about, K-State is one of those schools that always have 2 or 3 players that come out that make a big difference to get them in a tournament. So it's hard. We rarely see this team under 500. Then for them to lose to an A&M really is a shocker to a lot of people. So I remember now, college basketball is different than NBA because you can get that one player that can make a big difference in your franchise and can take you damn near to the Final Four. He can make that big of an impact. So when you have, it goes from having that one player that can make a big of an impact to completely having no player at all is making an impact. And not only that, you're just you're fading back. So, and that's what we're seeing with K-State right now. You talk about the team that's at 5-13. So, for me, we got to see who the guy's going to be that's going to make that different for him. Is it going to be Nigel Pack? It's got to be somebody because right now this is not looking good. Now, like I said, I think that if they do keep going down this path, the possibility that they try to replace him. But this is something that, every time a team loses, they have to reevaluate what's going on. And the thing about college is, this is not like a draft where an NFL or an NBA where you draft somebody and it's like, or you're trying to draft somebody, say, I don't want to go there because X, Y, Z. Now, that happens with free agency. But in college, you keep losing these other basketball players that you're recruiting can decide, I don't want to go to that university because look at what they're doing. So there could be a change if they keep going south like this.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Nigel Pack. He had a strong game for them, but a long time for grace. For Bruce Weber, and I hate to say it, but at time, I mean, during the times of his career, he kind of benefited from the previous coaches, reputation build up through the program. Bill Self, his time in Illinois, then Bob Huggins as well. So, I don't think Bruce will be there for long. We see in the college ranks that they fire anybody, pandemic or not. So, if you're gonna be gone, you be gone, and they get somebody else in there for you. Next match.
That's the thing. And
go ahead.
It's just the fact that with these tournaments, we can look at it just a team thing, but a lot of times it's a SEC versus Big 12. These teams are trying to go out here and show that they have a stronger conference. So, the matchups, are set how they are, but this hurts that conference the biggest thing that you do hear from a lot of recruits, and I think you sent to me about Nick Saban, even though it's football. One of the things he said in his video about recruiting is about competing at a better conference and a better team. So, when you have a team that's dropping the ball like Kansas State, it's going to hurt the conference as well.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And then, for the next matchup, Texas Tech, LSU. Texas Tech has been playing pretty strong here this month. Very strong.
Yeah.
We talked about, Texas Tech earlier this month, the Barnett kid leaving. But, they still find their stride. And, to beat a tough LSU team that they didn't get much from their post play with Trenton Walford, just going 2 for 11 from the field and fouling out, that don't help none. Good guard play from the guards, but Texas Tech, hanging in there, being tough. Chris Beard, still got the discipline on his team. So, great rate from them.
Matt McClung is looking like a really good player in the future. I mean, just watch his plays. He's going to be special. You know what I'm saying? Like he put up 22 points against a solid LSU team. I'm going to show you what he can do for the long term.
And then we're on to the next matchup, Florida, West Virginia. Florida needed this win bad. I don't say bad like that, but they kind of need like a quality win. And I think this matchup, came in the right time.
Yeah.
And I know they beat Tennessee back on the 19th. But it seemed like, and you probably agree with this, this Florida team got no pop to them.
Nah, they're not in the category with the Texas Tech. Let's say that. Like they don't, show to where, like you said, they've been looking good for a while. You can't really say the same thing for Florida yet, but this victory over West Virginia, and it was a good matchup too. It was something that had to show, okay, yeah, they are a team. They look like a 10-4 team.
You beat a ball Huggins team in West Virginia. Look great doing it. Castle, shot very well from the field, 6 for 9 from the field for 21 points, 7 rebounds. That's a hell of a game right there. Down low. You weathered the storm from Culver from West Virginia, who had 28 and 12. So, I watched the game in full. I mean, it was a good back and forth battle, especially, down low. McNeil off the bench for West Virginia had 21. But even with that off the bench, hey, Florida did a great job, made the stops they had to make. And I think another quality win to build up the winning streak they have right now. Then you're going down the line, Missouri, Texas, TCU, excuse me. In overtime, Missouri wins 102-98. Missouri is a team that really don't get talked about a lot in the country. I don't know if you agree with that or not.
They don't. They should. They're one of those teams that, they got the depth to me. They, what I'm saying? They got the guys that can put in the big time minutes. Come on, you got 2 guys over 30 points. Like, you got some solid pieces on that team. And they're slowly starting to show, what they can do. Now that game was a tough game against TCU, obviously. But the big thing about them is they also, grab boards as well. The forwards are grabbing everything off the glass. So this team can put up, a lot of points, and they're kind of not talked about as much because of the big names like the Tennessee, So, but they'll come around when the time is right. They got a couple guys, like I said, on that team that I really, really been keying in on and seeing, because I look at it like, okay, well, what guys can really do some damage on the next level? Most of the time we see kids stay in school 1 year and then they leave in college. There's a couple seniors that still can, get to that next level and do some damage. So Tillman is looking good. Jeremiah Tillman, he played very well to me. There's a couple other guys, but they're going to earn their respect, over time. And I think this game did help.
Yeah, Tillman, 13 for 16 from the field and 11 rebounds. That's monster
insane.
right there. That's monster right there. Then, Xavier Pinson with 36 points himself. 8 for 13 from the 3-point land. That's strong too.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So it's those kind of plays, or those kind of players that doing that on a big stage like the SEC and the Big 12 Challenge. These are a lot of these guys are going to make their money, and for them to play like that, like you said, they may have not been talked about before. Best believe teams will come in and think more about what this team can do, especially when the tournament comes around.
And I'm a big Conzo man, Martin fan. I love his style. I love his demeanor. I know you. You at Tennessee at a time, and I felt like where he's at Tennessee, he never got the. I don't know. The fan base really never galvanized around him like they should have. I think they were still reeling in the fact that Bruce Pearl was gone. They loved Bruce Pearl. And Conzo didn't really get that love from them to help build that program that, really should be honest, should be still be at today.
Yeah. But also when I was there, Pat Summitt, rest or so, was one of the greats out there at the moment. So the women's basketball team was just up there. They're still somewhat in that level, but we're talking about, the team that Pat Summitt had with a lot of these ladies coming in. I remember, I think Candace Parker had left just like the year before I got there, or a year or two before I got there. So, so much, the University of Tennessee has so much built into their basketball programs. That Bruce Pearl was just now there. I think one of the years I was there, John Wall was a freshman at Kentucky. That's when Kentucky had all the guys around that time, and they upset them. So, but it's changed a little bit now, and hopefully they can turn it around a little bit. It seems like they're trying to get back to Tennessee that we know, but I think it's going to take a little while.
Yeah, I think Rick Barnes has done a solid job, and we can talk about Tennessee and Kansas. Tennessee beat the brakes out Kansas, 80-61. I think it's just like a group effort win for Tennessee. And for Kansas, I know people kind of talked about to death, but this ain't like a regular Kansas team we see in the past. So I think, what I tweeted from the Fast Break account on IE Sports Radio, if you're not following us, please do. I think you can say this about Kentucky fans along with Kansas fans. Just chalk this season up as a bad season, not the one you're expected to, and kind of hope for greener pastures next year.
Yeah, that would probably be the better idea, because you have so much. This year's it's been a long year, and there's things that they have to change and fix, and also recruiting is top notch. So for me, I definitely agree with that.
And then we'll wrap this up real quickly. Oklahoma State over Arkansas. Kay Cunningham. That's a bad man right there. And, the last second shot, 21 points, 7 for 13 from the field goal for shooting, 2 for 5 for 3-point land. That man, I think he's slowly inching himself as the number 1 overall pick in the upcoming draft. Just me personally, I think, that lasting shot, he's showing that he could be that true number 1 scorer when he gets to the league.
Yeah, I mean, he looks explosive too. Like he can be very good. And of course, around this time, as we said before, we watch, we love basketball. We also watch to see that person in college basketball that's going to take that leap ahead of everybody else. And that's what he's doing.
Yeah, imagine if a Kay Cunningham's at Kansas or Kentucky right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Then Baylor over Auburn. And Baylor stays undefeated for the season. Tariq Cooper for Auburn. And ever since he, got eligible for Auburn, I must say, for Cooper, he's turned into a potential top 5 prospect. Along with Cunningham, along the kid from Gonzaga, the Silver kid from Stanford, I'll throw Cooper in that mix as well.
I got to watch him play a little bit more.
I saw him in that first action he had against Alabama. He played great. He scared me to death, especially in that second half. I was like, oh, shit. And if this had been like an Avery Johnson coach team, I think they were folded. But, credit to Nate Oates and staff. They built the system and stuff like that, kind of keep some gains and bring them back real quickly. So, but, they held Cooper in check, 6 for 17 for shooting, 1 for 5 for 3-point land, 15 points for him. So not his best game. But, credit to Baylor. They still stay undefeated. And I think, they're still going to be a number 1 seed come tournament time. And lastly, Mississippi State beating the crap out of Iowa State, 95-56. I don't know what happened to Iowa State, D-Lock. I really don't know what happened to him. I'm trying to think who's the head coach right now. Steve Prohm. Yeah, Steve Prohm. You talking about a guy, I think a couple of years ago, people were itching to get. He used that leverage to stay at Iowa State. But now he's sitting at 2-9 right now.
Faded back.
I mean, really faded back. And I don't know. I think they may give him another year, but, come next season, he's on the clock.
Yeah, I mean, that you can't. We talked about it before. With Kansas State, can't be sitting. Man, listen, you can't be sitting with these kind of records. This is not it's not going to work for too long because you're slowly losing recruits. So, yeah, it's not, not a good idea, and it won't last long. So, I give him a little bit of time, but that time will be clicking soon.
And Steve Prohm was a guy that, used to be an Alabama guy, and I figured when they let go of Avery, he'll be a guy that be first guy to call. But, he wasn't the first guy they called, and, they called Nate Oates first. And, ever since then, Nate Oates, Alabama, having an excellent season, and Steve Prohm and them at Iowa State really ain't been up to snuff. So we'll see how the season shakes out for those for Iowa State in the coming weeks. But, ladies and gentlemen, another sponsor here at IE Sports Radio. It goes down in the PM. I think I already said that. Sorry. Coffee After Dark. Podcast on Mom is Always Right Media. Don't miss the next chapter of your favorite love story. Check out season 2 premiere of Coffee After Dark, brought to you by Mom is All Right Media, where we help you open for business from start to finish. Also, another sponsor here on IE Sports Radio, the Sports Rundown. Are you a sports fan but have too much going on in your life these days to keep up with the 24/7 sports cycle? Or maybe you're new to sports and want to understand nuances better. If so, the Sports Rundown is for you. We are a new podcast that give you basic professional and collegiate sports news, stats, and tidbits, and fun facts by the time you get to work, start the second cup of coffee, or finish walking the dog, or in the shower. If enough information to make you dangerous while talking about current sporting events, and we will teach you something fun along the way, like mascots, uniforms, history, feel-good stories, and sports rules. You even cover the Premier League. New episodes drop Monday and Friday mornings, so come give us a listen. So around the NBA D-Log, like we mentioned, Denver snapping the Jazz's winning streak. I think Denver's, finally finding a groove. You look at, today's scores. The Clippers beat the Knicks 129-115. Kawhi Leonard having another strong game, 28 points, 4 rebounds for him. Morris off the bench have 11 points. For the Knicks, Julius Randle had 27-12, and Barry had 23 points out 9-14 shooting. And I don't know if you like this nickname or not, but Microwave Quickly had 25 points off the bench.
He is cooking right now. I ain't gonna lie. Listen, that dude is. I don't know how you feel about this, but I think he's gonna mess around and have Elmer Payton go out the door quick, or he'll be on the bench. One or the other. He's playing exceptionally well right now.
Yeah, I kind of surprised how where he fell and stuff like that, and some of these teams need scoring guards. I'm surprised nobody selected him earlier than he did. So, I got to shout out to the rookie. He's been playing very well. It really kind of slowly, I don't know, it's early in the process, but kind of outplaying his draft position. So, shout out to him. But, when we see the Knicks, being in the mix, really contending and fighting through, where's their ceiling, for the rest of the season? Do you see them making the playoffs, staying where they are and making the playoffs, or do you see them dropping off anytime soon?
Well, they're playing very good right now. Now, what puts them in a good spot also is the fact that they are in the East. So, we could look at a team that could make a push. Now, the East is a lot stronger than it was last year, obviously. Now, the key to them continuously to progress is Julius Randle. I mean, we haven't seen much from Obi Toppin that much, but I think he'll get in the groove of it at some point. But yeah, I think that they will make that push for that last spot. Dude, I don't know what the hell the Wizards are doing. Like, I was expecting better. I mean, Bradley Beal is still being Bradley Beal. But they can make a push. I mean, I knew that Thibodeau was a good coach, and he would help them move pretty far. But I mean, we got to see how long they can contest this and keep it going.
Yeah, I think we, see great things for them. And, I think once Obi Toppin gets back in the groove of things, I know he came back from injury a few games ago. But, if he can, contribute like 15, 20 minutes per game, I think that would do wonders for them down the line. Then looking at other scores around the league today, you mentioned the Wizards and the Nets. Durant having 23 points right now. Joe Harris has 22. Landry Shamet, 10 points off the bench. James Harden not playing tonight. What does the future hold for Washington in your eyes?
Well, I don't know, but it just seems like that team is all over the place. Russ is just there, just playing. Bradley Beal continues to put up 30 every night, 40 sometimes, 50, every blue moon. But just seems like this team they got Huchamara, they got all these other guys around this team. You've seen Jerome Robinson even catch fire. So for me, it's like, who's the go-to guy? Like, what are they, when are they going to make that push forward? They got a couple of guys there that can, show what they can do. It's just, I don't know. It's like they're playing street ball. Like, they're not, it's like they don't have any chemistry. These guys are playing well, but they're not doing anything together. Putting down a bundle of winning games. So, for me, again, we're talking about a team that is fighting for the last spot in the playoffs again. And I'm not understanding why. Is it just that spot with those guys that they got on that team? I mean, I was just talking to one of my buddies. Dude, do you realize we haven't seen Troy Brown like all year long? He's fell out of rotation. And he was a solid piece on the team last year.
And former first round pick.
Yeah. So that's what didn't they just pay Dallas Bertans?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I'm kind of trying to figure out what is going on. But Philly is looking like they're progressing. Boston looking like Boston. I think Jimmy Butler just came back, so I expect for that team to kind of play a better role, or play better moving forward. So, got to see what the Wizards are gonna do. I mean, just like I said, they got a bunch of solid pieces on this team. Like, they're wasting Bradley Beal's career away right now.
I don't know, Keith. Do you think they're wasting his career, or they kind of did it themselves, sign that extension not about a couple years ago?
Yeah, I mean, that's true. I mean, he put himself in a scenario where he did sign that. He couldn't look away from the money, and he signs this extension, and now it's like, well, you're stuck with the team. You're dropping 40 a night, but you're not going anywhere. Now you're collecting your check, yeah, but They're literally clocking in and clocking out. So, so it could be that, but it's just to me, I don't see them making that progression that I was expecting. I mean, they would show up from game to game or a couple games. They play Brooklyn, play them tight. Play Boston every now and then, play them tight. But now, it's a chance to kind of move forward with having a Russ and a Bradley Beal in your on the court, and they can't get it done. So, I mean, if you can't get it done with the squad that you have now, or at least show some kind of progression moving forward, then I mean, who knows? I mean, come on now, they're 3-12 right now, 3-12 with the guys that they have. So, me, you got to find the answer some kind of way, and maybe it's to the point to where you just completely start over. Maybe you start with Root. Maybe you trade away Russ again. Now you got to trade him. Maybe you try to figure out some kind of situation with Bradley Beal. Maybe you keep, Rui Hachimura, Davis Bertans, since you've extended them, and kind of try to build. But it's not looking good, man. I mean, with the squad that you have, you're not doing anything, and it's not going to get any better.
Yeah, and they're down by 10 right now to the Nets. We'll see. I want to shout out to chat real quick. Marcus, Los, great. How you doing tonight, sir? And, him and Terry having back and forth about the Lakers and Celtics. Marcus is saying, Celtics, the Lakers got lucky on the last shot. Terry, saying why having Jaylen Brown take going for 1 for 10, taking the last shot. So, there's some conversations in the chat tonight. But real quick, on the Lakers-Celtics matchup from last night. Prime time last night. Lakers, like, we mentioned, kind of hit a little skid. Not too bad of a skid, but, lose by 1 to the Sixers after the last second shot from Tobias Harris. Lose by double digits to the Pistons. And then, you bounce back against the Celtics. Big day from Anthony Davis, 27-14. LeBron had 21-7. Schroeder, I think, stat-wise, has one of his better games as a Laker. Montrezl Harrell had 16. Kuzma had 11. Laker fans did not like Kuzma, by the way.
They really don't. That dude can win them 4 or 5 chips, and they still don't like that man.
And then, on the Celtics side, Jason Tatum, 30 points, 9 rebounds. Jaylen Brown, 28 points. Strong performance for them. Then Marcus Smart strained his, come out from Shams that he went out of the game. They thought it was like the worst, but it turned out to be like a strained calf. So he's gonna be out, but he's gonna be out for like at least 3 weeks. So with Smart going out for the Celtics, you got Tatum back in the fold from COVID precautions. How do you see this Celtics team, shaking out? Losing one of their key consistent pieces defensively and offensively at times. How do you see that shaking out for them?
I think they're going to get back good. The one person that I want to see him play better with his minutes or play better or play more consistent is Kemba Walker. It's like we'll see him, get his minutes bumped up one day, minutes drop down the next day. So for me, that's somebody that I want to see more involved. But it's just like with this team, they have so many pieces. Like they need to dedicate that Jason Tatum is their go-to guy. He's the number one guy, then follow under Jaylen Brown, however, whatever the pecking order is. They need to set that up because it still seems as if when they play against a team that is playoff, has a playoff background or could contend for a title, they struggle. So for me, we are looking at the Celtics looking this way right now. Everybody's looking at the Heat like they falling off, but Jimmy Butler will get them guys right. And we talked about it before. This COVID, the way COVID is going, is affecting a lot of these teams' chemistry. So these things have to get, have to come together at some point. But I like Coach Stevens. I think he's a good guy. I think he's a really good coach. But can they take that next level? Possibly. But it's gonna be, again, the East just got a little tough. 76ers, to be honest with you, look like a different team than last year. So we definitely, we'll see Doc Rivers has made the Sixers definitely look much better. So it's going to be something to watch out for, but the Celtics need to show that consistency as well.
Yeah, in the chat, Marcus is saying, D-Log, that he wished Tatum had Smart's heart.
Yeah, I understand that. I mean, that Tatum is Marcus Smart is probably the most physical guy in the NBA. One of, mentally, and he's gonna always show his face. He's always gonna be that person that's gonna make an impact, and he can guard anybody. So if you put that onto Jason Tatum, probably talking about a top 10, if not top 5 player in the league. And that's if he, could give that same energy that Marcus Smart had.
So, big bounce back win for the Lakers. I think for the Celtics, it seemed like, that injury bug always kind of hurt them for the past, couple years. Kyrie's injury a couple years ago, the IT injury.
Going to
Hayward. Now you're looking at Marcus Smart. So, hopefully,
yeah,
and hopefully Smart comes back healthy.
They're pretty deep, though. I mean, that team has a lot of players in that team, so they have a lot of options, and if they can just get the chemistry right and decide, okay, this is our guy, then move towards that.
So, Celtics sitting at 5th right now in the standings. Atlanta seems like they're playing a little bit better right now. Indiana, they playing still excellent ball right now. Doug McDermott has given them decent minutes off the bench and scoring. So, and you mentioned Philly. Doc Rivers getting that team right. Embiid playing at a very high level this year. And especially, and the thing about Tobias Harris, before we go to our next subject, he loves playing for Doc Rivers.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what Doc Rivers does with him or the way he coaches him, but he plays very excellent for, Doc Rivers. So, giving him the form and stuff like that, hey, kudos to Doc on that. But, ladies and gentlemen, we asked you before the show, who are y'all biggest influences in basketball for the past 30 years? ESPN put out like a tweet like a couple days ago, saying who were their biggest influences in the game for the past 30 years. View it through Hoop Mix only. You got Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, LeBron James, and Steph Curry. I don't necessarily agree with that. I know you don't necessarily agree with that, D-Lock. Who do you think were some of your big influences on the game of basketball in the past 30 years?
Well, it's a lot of guys. I mean, it's a lot that can be considered. But obviously, you got the big dog, MJ. I mean, it's just dude's shoes are still selling right now, so we can just put that at the top. Somebody that just made a big impact. Now, I can't put Kobe on this list. I feel like he was one of the greatest ever, yes. But as far as impact, I think it followed what Michael Jordan did. And it's hard to actually follow that. So for me, I have Michael Jordan. I have Shaq. And I got to have Shaq because Shaq literally made that, even to this day, you have Popovich and all these other coaches that see that these centers can't shoot, and they will hack these players. It started with hack the Shaq. Started to foul Shaq and understand that he couldn't make the free throws. So as soon as the game would start, they will start fouling. I mean, as soon as they inbound the ball, they're fouling Shaq, you know. And also, this dude grabbed everything off the glass. He got your best man out of the game quick. So I have Shaq. I got to add Allen Iverson.
Yeah.
I mean, his role was just impeccable. He just did it. He literally changed, the fact that the smaller guys can basically do damn near anything. They can play like the bigger guy. So AI has to be up there for me. And it just with the fact of what he did, and he made a big impact on everybody. Another guy I got right here, and it's probably going to be a shocker probably to you a little bit, is Vince Carter.
Ooh, okay.
And the reason why is because, for the longest we've seen, people win a slam dunk competition and they just went back into the role as the bench player that, got their minutes and went on about the way. Well, Vince Carter came in, won the slam dunk competition, and turned out to be this incredible player. We see that with Zach LaVine. We see that with Blake Griffin. Can't necessarily say Dwight Howard because Dwight Howard's already the guy who he was. Still waiting on Diallo to see if he comes in the fold. But I think that Vince Carter was that guy that made a difference, especially dunking over guys. I mean, we see people dunking over cars, dunking over people. We've seen, the different things happen with the slam dunk competition and how it affected later on. I think Vince Carter was a huge impact. So one more person for me too, obviously, is Tim Duncan. I feel like Tim Duncan played a huge role. This is a guy that literally looks like a cartoon drawing and will still give you a triple-double every game. Do an interview, you never see him smile, but you can see that he was very focused and dedicated to the game. So for me, I had Jordan, Shaq, AI, Vince Carter, and Tim Duncan.
Real quick for me, Al Iverson has an influence in the game of basketball. The influence he had off the court, the culture that he, at that time, as you know, probably know this, in those early 2000s, Rockefeller, the hip hop, that culture, especially being in Philly too. The big, being big, being that influence. have that tough mentality and all that stuff. You have to have him in the conversation as big influencers. Jordan, no need to be said what's already been said about him. I actually do agree with Steph Curry on being on this list, believe it or not. For me, for a person who coached young kids and stuff like that, his influence has touched all levels. Coming up, these kids trying to come up and jack up 3-point shots and stuff like that drives me nuts.
yeah, I got you. That's true.
It drives me nuts. I was like, now my hands-on person, my coach is like, no, you ain't coming down jacking up shots. No, we ain't doing that. And, like Mark said, Steph has changed the game. Yeah, he's changed the game from all levels. And you're talking about a guy that, from Davidson, built a reputation and name from there. Carried that to Golden State that kind of looked shaky at first with the injuries. And then now, he's the player who, he's the player that he is now. You got to have him on the list. LeBron, what's said about him has already been said as well. And, that's the guys I see as influencers in my list.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with the LeBron. Steph, I can understand that too because you're not lying. I mean, yeah, kids jacking up 30-footers and 32-footers and jump, tossing from half court, feeling like they, yelling Steph. So, yeah, I agree with that as well. And it's gonna be a couple of influence that change. If you look at the game now, you got shooters everywhere. Now, if you, in a sense, look at the Sixers now. Like Doc, what he has done is he went and grabbed. He had Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid, so went and got him a shooter, and Seth Curry. So now it's spreading the floor, and that's what's going on right now. So I agree with you on that.
So yeah, we'll end it on that note. Thank you for tuning in with us tonight. If you're not following us on Twitter, please follow us. Please do at Fastbreak IESR. That is Fastbreak IESR. Also, please do follow IE Sports Radio on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and also the website, iesportsradio.com. Buy some merch while you're stopping through and catch the playback on all the shows. How can people find you on social media, D-Lock?
You guys can find me at Black-813 on Twitter and Instagram. I'll be tweeting and posting a lot about the Bucks coming up. We're playing the Super Bowl in about a week. Let them know where they can find you at, man.
You find me on Twitter at Spawn4288. That's Spawn4288. Also, find me at the Crooks Process on Instagram and Facebook. We may be on next week, may not. We'll see. But till then, ladies and gentlemen, we out.
Peace.